Mudhouse Mansion, nestled in Fairfield, Ohio, has long been shrouded in mystery and eerie legends. Dating back to the mid-1800s, its exact origins remain unclear, with various stories circulating about its past. The mansion stood empty for decades, its walls echoing with whispers of its troubled history and the tragic fate of its last resident, Lulu Hartman-Mast. Rumors of dark happenings flourished in the absence of concrete information. Some locals claimed that Lulu had been an eccentric recluse, rumored to have dabbled in the occult, which only added to the mansion's sinister reputation. Stories of ghostly apparitions wandering the halls, strange noises echoing through the night, and shadows flitting past the windows became common folklore, fueling imaginations and chilling tales around campfires. Despite the mansion's decay, visitors occasionally dared to venture close, drawn by the thrill of its haunting legacy. They would speak of feeling watched, of sudden cold spots, and of hearing faint whispers carried by the wind. Yet, with each passing year, the legends grew wilder, often lacking credible sources or evidence. In 2015, after decades of abandonment, Mudhouse Mansion met its fate. Demolition crews leveled the structure, but the legends and tales of its dark history live on in the minds of locals. While the physical mansion is gone, the stories of its ghostly inhabitants and the secrets hidden within its crumbling walls continue to haunt the community, a testament to the power of myth and memory in shaping the narratives of places long forgotten. As the dust settled after the demolition of Mudhouse Mansion, whispers of its haunting legacy only grew louder among the residents of Fairfield. Some claimed that the spirit of Lulu Hartman-Mast still lingered, restless in the wake of her home's destruction. Others believed that the very essence of the mansion, the stories, the shadows, and the secrets had seeped into the land itself, creating an inexplicable energy that would not be easily forgotten. Jean Mast, Lulu's distant relative and the current owner of the property, felt a deep connection to the site. Though she had never lived in the mansion, she often heard the stories passed down through her family. Intrigued and somewhat unnerved, she decided to explore the remnants of the property, hoping to find anything that could shed light on her ancestors' life. One sunny afternoon, armed with a notebook and a camera, Jean walked through the overgrown lot where the mansion once stood. The air was thick with nostalgia, and as she wandered, she began to feel a strange sensation, as if the land was alive with the echoes of its past. She stopped at a patch of wildflowers that had taken root amidst the rubble and noticed an unusual glint in the dirt. Kneeling down, she brushed away the soil to reveal an ornate locket, tarnished but beautifully crafted. It seemed to shimmer in the sunlight, almost beckoning her. Inside the locket were two tiny portraits, one of a young woman who resembled Lulu, and another of a man with an intense gaze. Jean's heart raced. She wondered if this was a long-lost piece of family history. As she held the locket, a sudden chill swept through the air, and the atmosphere shifted. Jean felt a presence, a whisper of something trying to communicate. She could almost hear the faint echoes of laughter and sorrow intertwined, as if the mansion itself were reaching out to her. Determined to uncover more, Jean sought the help of local historians and paranormal investigators. They pored over old records, uncovering fragments of Lulu's life, a woman who had faced her share of hardship, losing loved ones and living in isolation for years. The stories began to paint a more complex picture of the woman behind the legends. One night, during an investigation at the site, the team set up equipment in the area where the mansion once stood. As they began their session, they called out to Lulu, hoping to establish a connection. They reported strange fluctuations in the EMF readings and captured odd sounds on their devices, whispers and what sounded like a woman's voice, pleading for recognition. The team was invigorated by the evidence, feeling that they were close to uncovering the truth. Jean, however, felt an even deeper connection as she held the locket in her hand, convinced it was a key to unlocking the mysteries surrounding her ancestor. That night, as she reviewed the recordings, she heard a distinct phrase repeated softly, "Find me." The urgency in the voice sent shivers down her spine. Who was the man in the locket? What story was Lulu trying to tell her? Driven by a mix of curiosity and a sense of duty, Jean decided to dig deeper into her family's past. She combed through old diaries and letters, piecing together the narrative of a life filled with both love and tragedy. Each discovery led her closer to understanding Lulu's world, the man in the locket, and the reasons behind her solitary life in the once grand mansion. With every clue she unearthed, Jean felt the weight of her ancestors' story pressing upon her, a story that demanded to be told. As she continued her search, she couldn't shake the feeling that the spirits of Mudhouse Mansion were still guiding her, urging her to bring light to the shadows of the past and finally allow Lulu to rest in peace. Don't forget to subscribe and like if you liked this story. Jean immersed herself in the research, spending hours at the local library, sifting through newspapers, public records, and family archives. Each piece of information brought her closer to Lulu's past, revealing not just the tragic circumstances of her life but also her hopes and dreams. One afternoon, while flipping through a yellowed newspaper from the early 1900s, Jean stumbled upon an article that caught her eye. Tragic accident claims life of local businessman. The article detailed the untimely death of a man named Thomas Wilkins, Lulu's former suitor. He had been a promising young entrepreneur whose life was cut short in a car accident just as he was poised to propose to her. Jean's heart sank. This was the man in the locket. The revelation filled her with a sense of urgency. It became clear that Lulu's isolation was rooted in profound grief, and the love she had lost might have kept her spirit tethered to the mansion, longing for closure. As the pieces of the puzzle began to fit together, Jean felt an overwhelming sense of purpose. She needed to honor Lulu's memory, to tell the story of a woman whose life had been overshadowed by tragedy. With the help of local historians and the paranormal team, she organized a community event to celebrate the history of Mudhouse Mansion and the lives intertwined with it. As the day of the event approached, Jean felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. She prepared a presentation detailing her findings, sharing photographs of Lulu and Thomas, the locket, and the stories that had come to light. The event would not only commemorate Lulu but also aim to bring the community together, offering a chance for healing. On the night of the event, attendees gathered in the town hall, filling the space with warmth and anticipation. Jean stood before the crowd, her heart racing as she began to share the story. The room was captivated as she recounted Lulu's life, the struggles, the love, and the tragedy that defined her existence. Midway through her presentation, a sudden chill swept through the room, causing whispers to ripple among the audience. The lights flickered, and an inexplicable energy filled the air. Jean paused, sensing a presence that felt both familiar and comforting. It was as if Lulu herself was there, urging her to continue. Jean took a deep breath, feeling emboldened. Lulu Hartman-Mast was not just a tragic figure. She was a woman full of life, dreams, and love. We must remember her not for the shadows that lingered but for the light she brought to those around her. As she spoke, the lights flickered again, and the audience gasped as a soft voice echoed in the room, one that seemed to resonate from the very walls themselves. "Thank you," it whispered, barely audible yet filled with emotion. The crowd fell silent, and Jean felt tears prick at her eyes. It was a moment of connection, transcending time and space, a recognition of the pain that had lingered for so long. As she concluded her presentation, she encouraged everyone to share their stories and memories, to keep the spirit of the mansion alive in their hearts. After the event, Jean was approached by several attendees who shared their own connections to the mansion. Many spoke of strange occurrences and encounters they had experienced, further solidifying the community's bond with the site. That night, as Jean returned home, she held the locket tightly, feeling the weight of its history in her palm. She knew that while the mansion was gone, its spirit lived on in the stories and memories shared by those who had been touched by its presence. With renewed determination, she decided to create a memorial garden at the site where Mudhouse Mansion once stood, a place for reflection and remembrance. As she envisioned the garden filled with flowers and paths for people to wander, she felt Lulu's spirit guiding her, finally at peace. As the project began to take shape, Jean sensed a deeper connection to her ancestor. With each plant she placed in the ground, she felt the story of Lulu Hartman-Mast unfolding, a tale not just of loss, but of love that transcended time, of a woman finally acknowledged and honored. And as the garden bloomed, So too did the legacy of Mudhouse Mansion. Its haunting past transformed into a beautiful tribute to a life that deserved to be remembered. As the memorial garden began to take shape, Jean poured her heart into every detail, selecting flowers that symbolized resilience and love. She planted lavender for tranquility, roses for love, and lilies for remembrance. Each blossom became a testament to Lulu's life, a vibrant celebration amidst the shadows of the past. With the community's support, the garden quickly transformed into a serene oasis. Local artists contributed sculptures, and benches were placed along winding paths for visitors to sit and reflect. Jean organized volunteer days, inviting families to help plant, weed, and create a space that honored not only Lulu but the history of the mansion itself. Word spread about the garden, drawing people from nearby towns to visit and pay their respects. On weekends, small gatherings blossomed as people shared stories of the mansion, the legends surrounding it, and their own personal experiences with loss and love. Jean found herself becoming a storyteller, weaving together the narratives of the past and present, creating a tapestry of connection among the community. One day, while working in the garden, Jean felt an unexpected chill in the air, reminiscent of the presence she sensed during her presentation. As she knelt to plant a new flower, she heard a soft rustle behind her. Turning, she was startled to see an elderly woman standing at the edge of the garden, her eyes glimmering with a mix of sadness and joy. "Hello," the woman said, her voice warm yet tinged with nostalgia. "I used to come here as a child. I remember the mansion well." Jean approached her, curious. "Really? What do you remember about it?" The woman's gaze drifted over the garden. "It was a beautiful place once. I heard the stories, but I also saw the life within those walls, the laughter of children, the gatherings of friends. Lulu was a kind soul. She loved her garden." Jean felt a surge of emotion. "You knew her?" The woman nodded. "I did. I was just a little girl, but I would bring her flowers. She always appreciated them. I think she felt so alone after Thomas." Her voice trailed off, and Jean could see the memories flooding back. "Do you know what happened to him?" Jean asked, her curiosity piqued. "I've been trying to piece together their story." The woman sighed, her expression turning somber. "Thomas was a good man, full of promise. But after he died, Lulu shut herself away from the world. I often wondered if she felt he was still with her, in spirit. The mansion became her sanctuary, but it also became her prison." Jean listened intently, captivated by this woman's memories. "Thank you for sharing that with me. I want to make sure Lulu's story is remembered, not just as a tragic tale, but as one of love and connection." As they spoke, the elderly woman reached into her pocket and pulled out an old photograph, slightly faded but still clear. "This is the last photo I have of her," she said, handing it to Jean. It depicted a young Lulu standing in front of the mansion, a radiant smile on her face, surrounded by a lush garden. Jean's heart swelled. "This is beautiful. Thank you for trusting me with this." The woman smiled softly. "You're doing something special here. It's important for Lulu to be remembered, as she truly was full of life and love." As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the garden, Jean felt a renewed sense of purpose. She knew she needed to honor not only Lulu's memory, but also the stories of all those who had been touched by the mansion. Inspired by the woman's words, Jean organized a community event to unveil the garden. It would be a celebration of life, love, and the stories that connected them, all a chance for the community to share their memories and find healing together. As the date approached, Jean worked tirelessly to prepare, crafting a program that included storytelling, music, and a remembrance ceremony. She felt an overwhelming sense of support from the townsfolk, each of them eager to contribute their own experiences and ties to Mudhouse Mansion. On the day of the unveiling, the garden was alive with color and sound. People gathered, laughter mingling with the sweet fragrance of blooming flowers. Jean stood at the entrance, welcoming guests and feeling a deep sense of gratitude for the community that had rallied around her vision. As the event began, she stepped to the front, her heart pounding with excitement and nervousness. "Thank you all for being here today to honor Lulu Hartman-Mast and the legacy of Mudhouse Mansion. This garden is a tribute not only to her but to all of you who carry the stories of our past. As she spoke, the breeze picked up, rustling the leaves and carrying a familiar whisper, one that felt like a warm embrace. Jean could almost hear Lulu's voice urging her on, celebrating the joy and connection the garden had inspired. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a magical glow over the gathering, Jean knew that the spirit of Mudhouse Mansion would live on, not in the shadows, but in the hearts of those who had come together to remember, share, and heal. And in that moment, she felt a profound sense of peace, knowing she had helped bring light to a story that had long been waiting to be told. As the evening deepened, the garden was aglow with twinkling lights strung among the trees, and the air buzzed with laughter and conversation. Jean watched as families mingled, sharing stories and memories, the atmosphere filled with warmth and connection. After Jean's introduction, the evening's events unfolded seamlessly. Local musicians played soft melodies, their tunes weaving through the gathering. People took turns sharing their stories, tales of visiting Mudhouse Mansion, childhood memories of Lulu, and even the personal connections they felt to the place. One by one, attendees approached the small podium Jean had set up, sharing heartfelt anecdotes. An older man recalled sneaking into the mansion as a boy, enchanted by its grandeur. A woman spoke of her grandmother's stories about Lulu, describing her as a kind and gentle spirit who always had time for the neighborhood children. Then, as the sun set completely, casting a dusky hue over the garden, Jean stepped forward to conclude the evening. Thank you all for being part of this beautiful tribute. Lulu's story is now woven into the fabric of our community. Let's carry it forward, honoring her life and the love she shared. Just then, a soft breeze swept through the garden, and Jean felt an overwhelming sense of peace. She smiled, sensing that Lulu was there among them, grateful for the recognition and love that had been missing for so long. As the final moments of the event approached, Jean invited everyone to light a candle and place it in the garden, symbolizing their shared memories and the light they would carry forward. One by one, people stepped forward, lighting their candles and setting them gently into the flower beds, creating a luminous path that wound through the garden. When the last candle was lit, the garden glowed with a soft, flickering light, illuminating the flowers and casting shadows that danced like the spirits of the past. In that moment, Jean felt a profound connection to her ancestors and to all the souls who had walked the grounds of Mudhouse Mansion. As the guests lingered, reluctant to leave, conversations continued under the starry sky. Jean smiled, knowing that the garden would become a sanctuary for remembrance and connection, a place where stories could continue to flourish. In the weeks that followed, the garden thrived. Families returned to enjoy its beauty, children played among the flowers, and couples strolled hand in hand, finding solace in the vibrant landscape. Jean often joined them, sharing Lulu's story with newcomers and keeping the spirit of the mansion alive. With each passing season, the garden bloomed anew, just as Lulu's story began to bloom in the hearts of the community. Jean felt fulfilled, knowing she had honored her ancestor and created a lasting legacy that would endure for generations. On the anniversary of the garden's unveiling, Jean organized another gathering. This time, it was not just a remembrance but a celebration of life itself. The community came together, with laughter, music, and food, honoring not only Lulu but also the bonds they had forged through shared stories and experiences. As the sun set that evening, Jean stood at the edge of the garden, looking out at the joyful faces around her. She felt a deep sense of gratitude for the journey she had taken from a woman searching for answers to one who had helped heal a community. In the soft twilight, she closed her eyes, taking a moment to appreciate the tranquility of the garden. And in that stillness, she felt a familiar warmth enveloping her, the gentle presence of Lulu, finally at peace. Jean opened her eyes, smiling as she watched the flickering candlelight dance among the flowers. The stories would continue, and the spirit of Mudhouse Mansion would forever thrive in the heart of Fairfield, a testament to love, loss, and the enduring power of memory. Don't forget to subscribe and like if you liked this story.